What's up everyone, Riley back with another video. This time we're delving into the world of Pokemon, one of the most popular franchises in the world. With its iconic creatures, immersive universe, and engaging gameplay, it has captured the hearts of millions of players across generations. And among all generations, there's one that stands out, for better or worse, Generation 2. Pokemon Gold, Silver, and Crystal was released in the year 1999.
You live to catch Pokemon, but 150 aren't enough. Get ready for the next step. On October 15th, Pokemon Gold and Silver will arrive.
It introduced a whole new region, Johto, which was filled with new Pokemon, new characters, and new adventures. Years later in 2009, we also saw a reimagining of this iconic generation, and what most would agree is the superior version, Soul Silver and Heart Gold. So going into this video, I'll say that while I've been playing Pokemon since the original Gen 1 launch, I've always been on the more casual side of the fandom. I've never really been into the competitive or the breeding aspects of these games, so keep that in mind and how our opinions might differ because of it. Typically when I start a new playthrough, I slowly plan my team out as I go, and usually have my ideal picks locked in by the second gym. This being the first time I've played the remakes, and the first time playing Gen 2 in at least a decade, I decided to do an all Gen 2 Pokemon team. Easier said than done, I came to learn. Now, while there are some Pokemon in Generation 2 that are extremely memorable and have great designs, I quickly realized that the majority of those are either locked to the end game or are extremely obnoxious to obtain. As an example, we'll look at Hitmontop. To get to Hitmontop, you need to get to Mount Mortar, get its first stage Pokemon, which is Tyrogue. At the earliest, this is available around the 4th gym. Then, if you wish to evolve Tyrogue into Hitmontop, you need to make sure that it has an equal attack and defense stat at level 20. Unfortunately, this is seemingly based completely on luck, so if the one that you're given doesn't have the correct stats, you'll need to breed it over and over again until you eventually get one with the right stats. A lot of the more iconic Pokemon are locked behind goofy mechanics such as these, or requiring a held Pokemon and a trade in order to evolve from a Gen 1 Pokemon. Again, a very annoying mechanic. What makes it even more noticeable is the fact that the majority of the easier to obtain Pokemon are very weak, have bad typings. I mean, I was blown away by the amount of normal type Pokemon in this game, and honestly kinda overall ugly designs. Whilst I can appreciate the creativity that Game Freak had this generation and how many new things they tried, this is by far one of the weakest aspects. Now, while I wasn't a huge fan of the Pokemon pool this generation, what really made Generation 2 special was the addition of the new features compared to Gen 1. The day and night cycle was introduced, which added a whole new layer of immersion to the game. Breeding was also added, which allowed players to create their own Pokemon with specific traits, and shiny Pokemon were introduced, which were rare and highly sought after. These last two mechanics carried on to future games and have given players a ton of extra playtime and depth. But I think the most impressive part of Gen 2 is that the developers added an insane amount of content to the endgame. I've played every main title Pokemon game now, and I was blown away by the endgame on Heart Gold and Soul Silver. Once you defeat the Pokemon League, you unlock the ability to explore Kanto, the region from the first generation. Not only that, you can defeat all 8 gyms in the region, challenge the Elite Four once again, now with an updated, stronger roster for an additional challenge, and as if that wasn't enough, you can even take on the character Red as one final battle. It's essentially 2 entire games in one. So with all this Gen 1 content that they added into the endgame, you can imagine how Generation 2 also has a strong connection with the previous game. Many of the characters from the first gen returned, including gym leaders, the Elite Four, and even the protagonists from the first game, as I had just mentioned. This continuity made the world of Pokemon feel even more real and interconnected. I also very much enjoyed the storyline of this generation, the return of Team Rocket and their attempts at causing mischief in order to bring Giovanni, the previous leader, out of hiding. But not everything is sunshine and rainbows when it comes to Gen 2. Whilst I had a lot of fun playing this game, around the 7th gym I noticed an issue. Suddenly the gyms were beginning to exceed the overall level of my Pokemon. At first it was just a couple of levels, then by the 8th gym it was 4 or 5 levels. Still doable, I thought, but definitely added a tinge of challenge. By the Elite Four, and more so the Champion, my Pokemon were a massive 10 levels behind. It made defeating Lance very difficult, but I managed to squeak by after chugging probably 30 hyper potions. This issue is exasperated by the fact there's no trainers to battle in Victory Road, and the overall level of wild Pokemon in the endgame is quite low, making leveling your Pokemon a huge grind. And sadly, this theme continues in Kanto with even lower leveled wild Pokemon, but the gyms having levels exceeding the Elite Four. This XP disparity put a huge damper on my overall experience, sadly. So overall, Gen 2 was a mixed bag for me. The remakes were very well done with excellent graphics, but you can only polish a broken foundation so much without rebuilding it. The overall mediocre Gen 2 Pokemon pool with the awful endgame XP scaling did a lot to lower my overall enjoyment of this game. Despite having a great map, storyline, and a lot of cool mechanics and gyms, not to mention the continuity from Gen 1. I don't know, at the end of these videos, I like to give these games an overall score. I'll throw up my general rubric on the screen here. With everything that I had mentioned before, Gen 2 had a ton of potential, and I think a modern day remake that addresses the issues would be really cool to see. But for Heart Gold and Soul Silver, I deem you worthy of nothing more than a B. Anyways guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. Let me know in the comments down below what you thought of Gen 2 Pokemon, whether you liked it, you hated it, anything in between. Hope you have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you in the next video.